This is the story on how 2010's YouTube destroyed Sonic the Hedgehog.
I wanted to look back at what I think was the absolute worst, cringiest, trashy era Sonic has ever had, the meta era.
Okay. I think we're at the point where we need to admit that this was never really a great franchise. And that we keep trying to find this thing that was never really actually there.
Sonic was never good.
This looks like I want to see this now, bro. This looks so good already.
Is this even the same movie?
This looks
a
million times better.
Sonic the Hedgehog, a video game phenomenon that was released to the world on June 23rd, 1991. And from back then all the way to now with the present day, Sonic has had lots of ups and downs, but these past 5 years for Sonic has been at an all-time peak, especially after games like Forces not doing well and just a lot of people losing faith in the franchise. And it did get worse for Sonic on April 30th, 2019. But before that, I want to talk about Sonic's major fall off that started happening around about 2012. At that time, Sonic Generations was out and ranked as one of the best Sonic games of all time, especially with the mod tools on that game. It was great all around, not perfect, but great. But everything was quiet with the Sonic franchise and somewhat stale at this time. But then a year later, Sonic Lost World had released. Now this game is the definition of mid, which by the way, I hate that word to my absolute core. I remember seeing the announcement trailer for this game release and then after that it just released out of nowhere. And what made it worse was I just never had a good PC and I never had a Wii U, so I couldn't play the superior version of the game and had to end up playing the 3DS version. But then last year I had played the PC version and I didn't have the best time personally with the game, but it was okay. And then in 2014 came the release of the worst Sonic game to ever exist, Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. The game just isn't Sonic. It went for that Disney Infinity type of deal gameplay, and while it was a cool idea, it just fell flat. And honestly, I hate the game that much that I am not even going to talk about all the issues the game has in this video. If you want to figure out why it's the worst Sonic game ever, I recommend watching another video on it, because my god, I will never cover that awful game. The show was good though, I'll give it that. And then for 3 whole years, there was nothing, and I mean nothing. People were bored, disappointment, and just saw no hope for Sonic. That was until 2017, with there being the release of 2 new Sonic games, one that focuses on the classic gameplay and one that focuses on the 3D gameplay. It was hype as all hell when both Sonic Mania and Forces released, but then there was a bit of a tumble. Sonic Mania released and has been marked as not only one of the greatest Sonic games of all time, but one of the greatest 2D Sonic games of all time, and people were loving it. But what about Forces? Well, let's just say it wasn't as awful as Sonic Boom, but still didn't follow through with the theme it was originally going for. When we saw the trailer for Sonic Forces, we seen that the Sonic world as we know it was destroyed. Eggman finally won against the battle of Sonic. So we were expecting a deep, dark, gritty Sonic game, but it wasn't. The biggest disappointment for me in this game was just how they presented this game to be a World War type Sonic game, but it wasn't, and we still had all these sunshine and rainbows type stages and stuff like what? The gameplay wasn't awful for both the custom character and Sonic himself, and the level design wasn't completely awful, but the levels themselves were just way too short, and classic Sonic in this game was just absolutely horrendous. And Infinite was such a disappointment. Bro threw a hissy fit, all because Shadow called him a weak ass bitch, and that is how he becomes this quote unquote strongest villain. Like, bro, I don't get it. So even though I don't think Sonic Forces is the worst game of all time in the Sonic franchise, it still isn't great, let alone okay. It's just below average at best, and this is where the Sonic community was left with nothing at all and had no faith in the franchise anymore. That was until some leaks started to fly around. There were rumours and then teasers showing that a live action Sonic movie was in the works, but everyone was worried with how Sonic was going to look, and when the first trailer dropped, everyone's fears came true.
Gotta go fast.
Sonic's design was so horrendous, that ugly, that Sonic became a meme character in the Chip and Dale movie. Fans hated this design and begged for a redesign to happen for the movie to be delayed, and the director Jeff Fowler and everyone else at Paramount listened to the community and the feedback that was given to them and made the best comeback ever. When the second trailer dropped on November 12, 2019, we got revealed Sonic's new design, and it was perfect. But to top it all off, at the start of the trailer, Sonic says this when revealing the new design for him.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package.
In an extremely handsome package. You just know they made that quote dedicated to that trailer, showing off a cool cinematic shot of the new peak design of Sonic, just showing and knowing they done a good ass job, and people were not only super happy, but started to see the bright future that awaited the Blue Blur. On February 14th, 2020, Valentine's Day by the way, the Sonic movie dropped, and oh man was it good. It took everyone by storm, so happy with the design, the action, the story, the references, and to top it all off, Jim effing Carrey. As much as Sonic 1 was a great movie, a fantastic movie at that, it did have some issues. Not a lot, but just some. But those issues wouldn't take away the great experience that you would get from seeing the movie. But the biggest complaint that everyone had from the movie was the amount of human characters that were in the movie. Now me personally, I actually love them. Tom is Sonic's friend slash father figure and is actually a good character. Maddie isn't a bad character, but I don't think she stands out a lot. And then Rachel, who is Maddie's sister, is actually really funny in the movie series. But I watched Sonic 1 just 2 days ago as I'm recording this video, and I will say, as much as Sonic did get a lot of character progression and good time in the spotlight in this movie, as it is his movie, there were just as equally or a tiny bit more scenes where the human characters had more screen time than the main character. At least that's how it felt, and that is why, as much as the first movie was super successful, everyone was bothered by this issue, but I wasn't personally. But then going back to Jim Carrey, he played such a huge role in this movie's success. Not only is it because he is actually a really good casting for Eggman, but it's Jim effing Carrey for God's sake, and he is actually the reason why I actually do not mind the human characters a lot, because well, Eggman is human. This movie is basically just Sonic's origin story in this movie verse, and along with that, it's Eggman's origin as well, and the main human characters actually have a role to play with both the protagonist and antagonist, mainly being Tom and Maddie of course, and Rachel the goat is just there for comedic effect. But even after all that, another issue people had was that the movie hardly had any of the music from the Sonic video games. I don't care what anyone says, whether you like Sonic or not, or whether that be the games, movies, TV shows of Sonic, it does not matter. If there is one thing that everyone can agree on that is great about Sonic, it is the freaking soundtrack on all the games, good or bad. As you can say this for any video game, as most video games have an amazing OSTs, but Sonic hits different, man. Songs like Live and Learn, His World and Ungravitify and more just screams peak, and that's why I really relate to why people have the issue with the movies not having any of the original soundtrack from the games and the movies. But you have to keep in mind, Jeff Fowler did state in an interview that they did want to add in a lot of the Sonic game music into the movies, but due to legal and copyright issues, I'm pretty sure that is what held them back back from actually adding in the Sonic game music in the movies. But even then, all the 3 Sonic movies do either have remixes of the Sonic OSTs from the games, or they do have some of the original music from the games in the movie, but only a tiny bit here and then have been played in the movies themselves. But even though that is the case, the soundtrack that is made specifically for the movies is actually still really good. First thing that comes to mind is the OST that plays when Sonic defeats Eggman in the first movie. So even though it would have been nice to have the original game music in the movies, the soundtrack that was specifically made for the movies is still good. Great, even. I also really love the end credit song that was made by Wiz Khalifa, Ty Dolla $ign, Lil Yachty, and Suko the Child made for the movie. I just thought that was great. The first Sonic movie wasn't perfect, but just shows you how much care and dedication Jeff Fowler and everyone else at Paramount and Sega had for these 3 movies specifically, when they are still listening to the feedback from the movies to then make the next movie even better from the last. Both Sonic 2 and 3 are proof of that. The Sonic franchise as a whole came at an all-time high and keeps going even higher with each passing day ever since the first movie released. With the first movie being a success to then the release of Sonic Frontiers and the Sonic 2 movie, and of course more people getting invested in the Sonic comics, which I really do recommend if you're really interested in the lore of Sonic and just the whole franchise of Sonic as a whole. I truly believe that without the Sonic movie being a success, or the potential possibility that the Sonic redesign might have never happened, or the Sonic movie just straight up never happened at all, I think the Sonic franchise would have been in a worse and darker place, which could have potentially ended the Sonic franchise as a whole. But guess what? It didn't. These past 5 years for Sonic have been absolutely amazing, and I am more hooked on the franchise than I've ever been in a long time. So thank you Jeff Fowler, Paramount and Sega, because honestly the Sonic movie was just a little ray of hope that the future of Sonic needed. Now I did ask some of your guys' thoughts on Twitter on what you guys think about the Sonic movie, and this is what you guys said. We got one from Xbox. He says, Clark here saw. That's got nothing to do with the movie, but okay. We got one from Rayguns, and he says, it's a banger movie. Great introduction, laying the foundation. I know people don't like that it focuses on the humans, but because we spend so much time with them early on, we don't have to use time in other films to build a connection between the humans and Sonic. And you know, I absolutely agree. It was the origin story. It was building a foundation for the movieverse, so I 100% agree with Rayguns on that one. But all in all, I loved the Sonic movie. It was great all around, and I will be honest, I never watched Sonic 1 or 2 until probably just before the Sonic 3 title card was revealed. I just don't know why. I just never really went to see the movies, and I was focused on other stuff at the time. But I'm glad I watched the movies, and it's because of that I got into Sonic thanks to Sonic Frontiers, the movies, and some other things within the Sonic franchise that got me hooked back onto Sonic again. But guys, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about Sonic? Do you guys think the Sonic movie saved the Sonic franchise, or do you think it was something else completely different? But guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you within the next video or live stream, and goodbye.